it was obvious she hadn't just stepped into a room, but an enormous suite. Brandon was a backup quarterback for the New York Jets, but he never used to care about being ostentatious. Hopefully his taste in women hadn't elevated similarly. For this to work, he had to want her as much as he had when they were in high school, and she'd dumped him to move to L.A. He'd not only have to get over 10 years of aging, but also 10 years of bitterness. She fought the tequila and guilt washing up and slipped off her robe. He'd asked her to come to the University of Michigan with him, and instead she'd chosen to go after her dream of being a movie star. Her life plan was what Dateline episodes were made of, and beyond stupid in retrospect. She'd actually thought she would make it, but being head cheerleader and hottest in the senior superlatives at Kenmore High didn't have the cash she'd needed on her headshots. She was just another pretty face in the monsoon of them that was replenished hourly. At least L.A. had taught her one thing: humility. A chill rattled her exposed skin, and everything went wobbly from alcohol and nerves. She glanced down. Crap. She wasn't wearing one of her few matching sets of lingerie, but a black thong and one of her everyday bras, the color of a Band-Aid and just as puffy. Maybe her ex-classmates were right about her. She couldn't even get a simple seduction right anymore. She turned, ready to run, but she needed to finish what she'd started. She had no choice. There was nothing waiting for her back at Hannah and Joel's. Bailey was going to enter kindergarten in the fall. Georgia had to try and grasp at a new life. It was either rewind backward 10 years with Brandon, or move back to L.A. and try again. No one who left L.A. was crazy enough to go back, especially at 28. Seducing Brandon was the saner option. She slipped off her granny panty bra and let it fall to the floor with her robe. Lesson learned. Never plan surprise sex while you're drunk and desperate. Georgia entered the bedroom and paused above the bed. Sheets rose and fell over the small of Brandon's back. His hair was tousled and his face lay flat against the pillow. Her pulse screamed against her neck. Everything in the room seemed to hum. She wasn't usually so forward. Of course, this was beyond forward. This was jumping vagina first into penis-infested waters without a lifeguard. Her world would be totally different now if she had just said yes to Brandon 10 years ago. They would probably be married and have 2.5 children, or at the very least, she wouldn't have had to ask Hannah and Joel's permission every time she wanted to have a guy over. Not that she'd had to ask them for that in a very long time. She gazed down the length of Brandon. The boy she'd left all those years ago had grown into a seriously sexy man. Her eyes glided along the outline of his broad back, his powerful hands squeezing the pillow and his rigid biceps cradling his head. She said a little, "Thank you," to her fifth margarita as she inhaled deeply and nestled her body behind his, pressing her breasts into his back. Her abdomen tumbled like a gymnast in the wake of the first skin-to-skin contact she'd had in years. Her nails trailed along his shoulder blades and lower. She snaked along his side, and her heart shot into her throat as she traveled across his tight stomach and underneath his boxers. He stirred, the bed squeaking under his weight. She circled her hand around him, and he released a sleepy gasp. His cologne smelled of musk, of pine. He was better endowed than she remembered, but it had been 10 years since she'd been with him, and more than 2 years since she'd been with any man. She might just have forgotten what a cock was supposed to feel like. She teased him slowly, her fingers finding a rhythm up and down the length of him, turning what was sleeping into something awake and rock hard in less than a minute. Heat jetted from her breasts to her face. She clearly hadn't forgotten how much she liked feeling a cock. This one